ऑल्दो वी आर लाइव, पर मैं फिर भी इंट्रो नहीं देने वाला क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि हर बार टेक्निकल ग्लिच होता ही होता है। तो सबसे पहले मैं कंफर्म करूंगा कि आवाज आ रही है कि नहीं, दोनों की आ रही है कि नहीं, उसके बाद मैं कुछ भी इंट्रो दूंगा इस बार। इस बार आई एम नॉट, मैंने 3-3 बार इंट्रो रिपीट किए हैं यार, 3-3 बार। सो या जो भी सुन रहा है जस्ट वेट फॉर 30 सेकंड्स क्योंकि वो थोड़ा हाँ, तो लाइक के बाद आई विल हियर से समथिंग।
मैं
या यू हैव टू से समथिंग एट लीस्ट, हाय हेलो, ताकि मुझे चेक तो करूंगा बाद में।
Hi, what's up? What's up? What's going on? Hello. Knock knock. Who's there?
मेरी तो आ रही है, आई हैव टू कंफर्म योर्स एज वेल। Yep, so yours coming as well. All right, cool. Finally, it's working. Okay.
इस पे delay होता है?
Yeah, so ताकि थोड़ा अगर बीच में कुछ ग्लिच आ जाए तो सेटल होने के लिए थोड़ा सा टाइम आ जाता है। अगर कोई लैग आ जाए तो उसको सेटल होने के लिए थोड़ा सा टाइम मिल जाए, तो इसलिए हल्का सा डिले होता है। एंड आफ्टर ऑल दीज बूमर मूवमेंट्स एंड हम शुरू कर सकते हैं। So hi Divya.
Hi Saurabh.
So hello everyone whosoever have joined in और जो बाद में join in करेंगे. So we are here live. We are the Two Bookdragons और हम आके बात करेंगे books के बारे में. And are you ready?
Yeah.
So the first book that we have for the episode 1 on the Bookdragons is The Dalai Lama's Cat. Okay, so just a little disclaimer.
Can I like?
Yeah, can you what?
Can I just do this throughout the live and sit?
जनता प्लीज कमेंट्स में जरा डाल के बता दे कि क्या दिव्या ऐसे पूरे लाइव पे बैठ सकती हैं या नहीं। जस्ट राइट यस और नो एंड विल नो व्हाट डू यू वांट टू सी हर फेस और द बुक कवर इन फ्रंट ऑफ हर फेस। सो या यू कैन टेल अस इन द कमेंट्स। सो बेसिकली आप लोग भी हमारे साथ ज्वाइन इन कर सकते हैं इन द होल कन्वर्सेशन अराउंड द बुक्स एंड स्पेशली अराउंड द दलाई लामा's cat, and you guys can drop in anything in the comments. We take in the comments always. And a little disclaimer, we are not the book reviewers, तो ये book reviewing show बिल्कुल भी नहीं है। What we gonna do is dissect, मतलब बहुत ही vegetarian वाला dissect हम करने वाले हैं, not a literal dissect। किताब कोई नहीं फाड़ेगा। इस पूरे शो के दौरान किसी भी किताब को कोई भी हानि नहीं पहुंचाई जाएगी। That's a very formal disclaimer that's must to be given, वरना book lovers हमें जान से मार देंगे। So we are just here as an author, as a reader, basically to give you the dissection of the whole book. And as said, the first book is The Dalai Lama's Cat. So to start with, so when did you read this book?
I read this book last year when we took up a challenge ourselves. The challenge that no one knows about.
ये ना बहुत स्मार्ट क्वेश्चन था। सो आई डोंट एग्जैक्टली रिमेम्बर द मंथ, तो इसलिए मैंने पहले तुमसे पूछा कि तुमने कब पढ़ी, ताकि मैं लोगों को बताऊं ओह कोइंसिडेंटली आई हैवंट रेड द बुक एट द सेम मंथ।
जी नहीं, it was not coincidence, it was planned. I don't remember the month. Just somewhere last year 2019 में उठाई थी ये book. I think it was your recommendation. Not sure. तुमने recommend किया था या मैंने?
Yeah.
मुझे याद नहीं.
The Dalai Lama's Cat was our second pick, right? So yeah, second pick was my choice.
So yeah, it was then that we picked up, and yeah, मतलब अभी तो तभी पढ़ ली थी first time. अभी for reviewing, for dissecting, for discussing हमने वापस एक बार पढ़ी है from a very judgmental perspective probably.
नहीं, we are not judgmental. सब बहुत ही मासूम किस्म के प्राणी हैं, especially me. We are two sweet little cats. That's all I can say. उसके अलावा और क्या कह सकता हूँ मैं?
वैसे cat like this book, obviously as we go further we will know कि this book has been written by from a cat's perspective. Okay, so पूरे इसमें you can see कि बिल्ली ने ही पूरी book लिखी हुई है। तो इसको पढ़ते टाइम मुझे याद आया कि there was this professor, मैं उसका नाम भूल गई, there was this physics professor जिसने अपना एक research paper लिखा था, ठीक है। तो वो जो research paper उसने लिखा था, okay, I got stuck. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. तुम्हारी वीडियो थोड़ी सी लैग कर रही है.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, but तुमने YouTube वगैरह तो नहीं खोल रखा है साइड में, just in case on the same network maybe. If anything else is running, you have to shut that down ताकि तुम्हारा इंटरनेट थोड़ा स्टेबल हो जाए, because it's very unstable right now. We can hear you, but it's difficult to see you clearly.
Okay. Is it better? Is it any better? Is it better?
Nah. But yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's not that much of a lag. I guess it will go better as we go on.
Okay. ठीक है. I switched my anyway. So there was this professor. उसने research paper लिखा था, and वो research paper में ना उसने submit किया, and they rejected. Now they rejected, so he asked the reason. They're like कुछ problem नहीं है. It's just that you've written we. Okay, so unless you have another author working on this, but we know you don't. You worked on this alone. So unless you have that, we can't submit this to the final board. Okay, and he had 2 days, and this is long back. Okay, जब वो Control F करके replace नहीं कर सकते, you know, this is long back. This is tough. So that is the only research paper till then. जहाँ पे, so he had a cat, and because he had written V, he co-authored his cat on the research paper, just so that he doesn't have to change the V. Just change the first thing, that this is the research submitted by this professor and this.
I mean, there is no rule that an animal can't be a co-author of of a research paper. So yeah, maybe there will be a rule after that. But हाँ, लोग loopholes ढूंढ ही लेते हैं. And then credits भी कोई चोरी नहीं करेगा, कोई credits share नहीं होंगे, कोई amount share नहीं होगा. What will be requirement of a cat कि 2 time का extra खाना दे देना, and he'll be like, yeah bro, your हिस्सा.
Exactly, and the cat I think went for the signing and attending lectures also later. I think मतलब उसको लेके जा.
That was cool. It will be like आज आपका जो so आज आपका lecture जो है वो लेने वाले हैं बहुत ही famous research paper के author, and then suddenly a cat walks in and everybody is like ठीक है, okay.
But this is funny. I think when I get a cat, even I will start doing that.
Wow, such a sweet thing to say, such a sweet spoiler and plus a scary thing to tell people in advance. Okay, so getting back to the book. So the Dalai Lama's cat is written in 2013. Yep. So 2013 में पहला edition release हुआ था, and since then it's been released multiple edition. Basically, it's one of the best sellers in its own, and it's been written by, जैसे हम बता चुके हैं, it's been written by the cat. But as we all know कि आज के टाइम पे हमें human references देने पड़ते हैं, so the cat thought कि ठीक है यार, cat author नहीं हो सकती. So she basically, so the cat decided to give it to one of a good author friend and asked David Mish to basically publish the novel by his own name. But we all know the truth that it's been written by the cat. But ठीक है यार, दिलदार cats होती हैं, तो उसने she decided कि कोई नहीं David Mish, you take all the credits, you take all the money, you take all the fame. I'll be happy being a ghostwriter, you can say. But yeah, so that's how it happened. That's what the author of the book is, you can say. अब आपकी इच्छा है कि आप author of the book किसे मानना चाहते हैं. आप डेविड मिश को मानना चाहते हैं या आप हमारी तरह you believe कि no, the cat should get the right name. Huh?
Okay, so can we give a gist कि what the book is about?
Yep.
Can we go ahead with it? So you want to do it?
Yep. No, you go ahead. You start with it.
तुमने पढ़ी नहीं है ना, मुझे पता है.
Oh wow, such a thing. इसीलिए तो मैंने तुम्हें बुलाया है कवर अप करने के लिए, आए कि सारे लूपहोल्स कवर अप हो जाए, है ना?
Okay, so the Dalai Lama's cat is written by David Mish, and the cat's name is His Holiness Cat. It's Rinpoche. It's Musi Tongue, and it's the snow lion, and it's also called Bodhi Katma. It's one of my favorite puns in the book where she says that. So okay, so this cat. Let's go with HHC because that's the most convenient. So whenever I refer to the cat, I will be saying HHC. So this book goes like there are 4, like there's a litter of cats that has 4 cats, and basically this particular HHC cat obviously was unnamed then, So she's in a very bad condition, and they are of all good breeds. They're Himalayan cats and everything. So they are of all good breeds. So these two people who found these cats, they were trying to sell the cats for a higher price. And when this particular cat was injured, it was not that well to do, it was very malnourished. So they packed her in a newspaper and threw her in the bin. So now Dalai Lama has come back from his US trip and he's passing through the road and he sees this whole experience because he stopped at a signal and he sees all of this experience. So he sends one of his men and goes, "Okay, go and purchase this cat for whatever price." And yeah, so he basically releases the cat from its own this thing, brings the cat home, brings her home, and takes care of the cat in his own room, basically. So this particular cat, we can see that she's very special to Dalai Lama. Throughout the book, we come to know that she's very special. And then we get on a journey where basically this cat overhears conversations that Dalai Lama has with whoever come to consult him. So obviously she will not say the name, but she gives a bit references. She says this is the queen of some kingdom. She will not say the true name. She's not that kind of a cat who will reveal her. She's a very professional cat.
Exactly.
But of course, the names are not important. What's important is the context where the conversation goes. And through the book, we see how various sins probably of mankind are addressed. You can say gluttony, you can say jealousy, you can say anger. So, how these issues are addressed by the Dalai Lama, by the men around the Dalai Lama surrounding him. And of course, eventually, like every book has, eventually things start falling in place one after the other. So there was a surprise element towards the end of the book, but it is not like a spoiler kind of a surprise. So it was like, I expected it. So it ended like that. Of course, we will go into details, but this is her whole gist ki hota kya hai is kitab mein.
This is the basic plot of the book. And now going ahead, तो सबसे पहले we'll address being professionals here. We'll address the things which nobody talks about basically, जो starting notes होते हैं and the acknowledgement and those things, which is pretty special. मेरे लिए at least यार मुझे बहुत मजा आता है उसे पढ़ने में. I always find कि कौन सा ज़्यादा interesting आ सकता है, which is because often लोग ना उनके अंदर बहुत सी ऐसी चीजें छोड़ देते हैं because nobody reads, so there are very Easter eggs बहुत सारे उसके अंदर हमेशा मिल जाते हैं if you find it obviously. So what very good thing that I liked about this was कि सबसे पहले the note which was very clear that it is in the loving memory of the Raiponche, which meant कि हाँ ठीक है, it's in the loving memory of the cat herself. And it clearly says obviously that she might not be anymore, इसीलिए वो लोग भी book publish कर रहे हैं and whatsoever it is. तो बट देन व्हेन यू गेट टू द प्रोलॉग तो पहला एक्सपेक्टेशन यही आता है कि ठीक है नोट जो है वो डेविड मिश ने लिखा है एंड प्रोलॉग इज बेसिकली मोर और लेस प्रोलॉग इज नॉट द पार्ट ऑफ द स्टोरी सो वील हैव अ प्रोलॉग फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ डेविड मिश एंड दैट्स हाउ इट स्टार्ट इज लाइक द आइडिया केम ऑन अ वन हिमालयन मॉर्निंग एंड इट जस्ट गोज ऑन एंड ऑन एंड ऑन एंड सडनली out of nowhere उसमें आता है that oh how adorable and I'm thinking that why the hell guest is saying how adorable to David Mish. I mean like ये क्या चल रहा है and then वो पर आता है and having a cat and I'm like holy shit ये book का prologue भी cat ने लिख के दिया है. How professional of an author the cat is that she did not miss the prologue of the book. She had to tell her readers कि ये book का idea आया कब. So that was very important over there कि कब एक हिमालयन मॉर्निंग she realized कि ठीक है दलाई लामा has a lot of knowledge but मेरे भी इतना कुछ experience किया है which is a very different perspective and the world would want to know from the layman's eye. अब now दलाई लामा obviously is उनका जो ज्ञान है वो बहुत ही high level का है and the cat's ज्ञान would be from the perspective of a layman जो 24/7 देखे उन सारी चीजों को और बताए. So उन्होंने हमारी भलाई के लिए the Raiponche wrote it for हमारी भलाई for the understanding of the layman about everything. It's not just about Buddhism, it's about the whole life, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So anything you want to say about the epilogue? That was the prologue.
So epilogue, so obviously it has spoilers. It has basically, like I said, it mentions how things start falling in place. But when we are on prologue and epilogue, I want to tell you about this. I don't remember the book, but ये मैं भी miss नहीं करती हूँ. I really liked reading these epilogues and prologues. So, एक में मैंने पढ़ा था कि this is to Lily something something, which is her 3 children. So this author had written, this is to Lily, supposing Jack and whatever, because of whom, without whom this book would have been completed 2 years ago.
yeah.
I was like, this is nice. This is true. This is fun.
I'll not tell कि मेरे acknowledgements और prologues में क्या होता है, उसके लिए आपको मेरी बुक पढ़नी पड़ेगी, but they are also very funny sometimes around. I'll not give a spoiler. मेरी बुक का यहाँ पे मैं बिल्कुल spoiler नहीं दूंगा, मैं औरों की बुक spoil करने आया हूँ. Okay, jokes apart. Yeah. So next up we have to talk about the characters. So book के अंदर not just all the characters, basically important characters. So सबसे पहला character जो we already have talked about so much, we have praised so much, the author of the book, हमारी अपनी राय पोंचे, and you can know बोधी कहते हुआ, HHC, My Little Snow Lion, सारे names जो भी है, so many multiple names of the author. ऐसा होता है अक्सर ना famous लोगों के साथ, they get these multiple names and by love लोग उन्हें नाम देते ही जाते हैं यहाँ.
And this particular cat, she loves that she has so many names. She has her favorite name. She has a name that only Dalai Lama calls her. She has a name that everyone else calls.
एंड सस्पेंस बन और ऑथर क्वालिटी ना आपको प्रोलॉग में मिल जाती है कि कितने अच्छे तरीके से शी हैज सेड कि ऑलराइट माय नेम, उन्होंने अपना नेम नहीं रिवील करती है. शी सेड दैट जस्ट गोज ऑन लाइक ओके आई विल नॉट टेल यू द नेम ऑफ अ हेयर जो दलाई लामा बुलाते हैं. आई एंड देन शी सेज आई माइट नॉट टेल यू टिल द एंड ऑफ द बुक. एंड इट्स लाइक व्हेन शी सेड कि बुक पढ़ोगे तो पता लग जाएगा कि मैंने बताया है कि नहीं बताया है. सो दैट्स क्वाइट हाई क्वालिटी राइटिंग बेसिकली. And उसके अलावा I guess important characters obviously in the book are the Dalai Lama himself, and then his one of his helper you can say, जिसका the person who has the most interaction with the cat, you can say, if I'm not wrong with the name, Chogyal. Yeah. And
Chogyal and
yeah, and then we had the cook Trinchi. So उनका भी बहुत important role है, because yep, we'll tell क्यों important role है. And then we had a special friend of our Rai Ponche जिनका नाम था Membo, which had a Membo, which have a very interesting role to play in the whole book. And उसके अलावा जो most fun character, surprisingly fun character जो मुझे लगा था, that was definitely of Frank, because he had shown so many elements, और फ्रैंक के इर्द गिर्द रह के जितना ज्ञान राय पोंचे ने दिया है, I mean that was special, that was really cool. And I don't know कितने लोगों की जिंदगी बदली नहीं बदली, but फ्रैंक की जिंदगी जरूर बदल दी थी राय पोंचे ने, and that was big. To change someone's personality from one end to another like that was really special.
Definitely. I mean, even the dog, the 2 dogs. One was the one that Frank had, and one was the one that they got rescued. एक puppy को abandon किसी ने कर दिया था, तो उसको लेके आए थे दलाई लामा के abode में. So even they too played an important role to understand a lot of aspects. Not Frank का कुत्ता was fine. Frank का कुत्ता was just there, but Kiki, I think. KYI. I don't know how to pronounce it. Kai, Kiki, जो भी. He, I think, he taught HHC something, some realization उसने with him.
And the other dog
I think
also,
David Michelle.
And the other dog also gave some realizations to her, that how does jealousy and all works basically.
Exactly. So I think David Michelle is an animal lover more than a cat lover.
Yeah, probably.
इस book से पढ़ के
हाँ पता लगता है. And yeah, so David Michelle is also quite close about enlightenment and Buddhism and all, because all the different books that he has written, we don't know बाकी books में किसने help किया. इस book में तो definitely राय पंच ने help किया, but the other books जिन्होंने भी help किया. So the few of the other books which are Buddhism for busy people, Hurry Up and Meditate, Enlightenment to Go. So all these people seems to be revolving around the meditation, you can say, or enlightenment, you can say, or Buddhism, you can say. So yeah, so he's been a person who likes to talk about these things, but in an interesting manner. I can say that for sure.
Yes. definitely. If this is to go by like as a standard, then yes, definitely. Very interesting.
ऑलराइट सो अब बारी आती है हमारी कहानी को डिस्कस करने की टू गो वन चैप्टर बाय अनदर नॉट लाइक चैप्टर वाइज लाइक फर्स्ट चैप्टर सेकंड चैप्टर ऐसे नहीं बट विद द फ्लो ऑफ द होल स्टोरी द रियल स्टोरी टेलिंग बिगिंस फ्रॉम हियर सो जी तो सबसे पहले जो ओपनिंग्स लाइक हाउ द थिंग्स वर्क्स आउट एंड हाउ सबसे पहला जो meeting point है that's basically with Raiponche and Dalai Lama. So as you said as well that it was a quite coincidental you can say or destined you can say that how these two meet for the first time. So Delhi का setup रहता है yep हाँ so दिल्ली का सेटअप रहता है where it's traffic like वो तो unsaid था दिल्ली बोल दिया ट्रैफिक नहीं आएगा वो कैसे हो सकता है so दिल्ली traffic honking and road पे sellers are going on and on where Raipunche shares a very deep story you can say and a very dark story of you can say यार वो बहुत बच्ची थी उस टाइम पे and then she remembered all those things she was a kitten and she remembered that story that's a pretty interesting fact in itself but it's quite painful as well so how she and her there were six kittens how she and her brothers and other sisters four or six I guess four okay then we'll go with four I trust you more okay so we'll go with four how they were taken away from the mother by few people by few kids basically human kids and they tried to sell them because they were of an interesting breed the Himalayan breed and the other got sold but no one was ready to buy Raiponche because she was very weak and fragile and also had a little accidents में उसको थोड़ा सा गिरा देते हैं तो she even becomes more crumbling sort of and when they were just wrapping her up in a newspaper and throwing away her in a bin Dalai Lama sees it and Dalai Lama then decides to send her pupils and buy the cat और यहाँ पे भी देखो Dalai Lama का clear है ठीक है डस्टबिन में फेंक दिया था वो डांट सकते थे बच्चों को लेके आ सकते थे बट नहीं he made a fair deal कि भाई हम तुम्हें $1 देते हैं and you give us the cat and from there it all started that's how the Dalai Lama and the Raiponche met for the first time very unconventional for sure but then it shows that how much of a giver you can say or how much of a kind-hearted Dalai Lama was and I guess most beautiful stories are woven around the tragic situations so this was the most interesting tragic situation you can say how the thing started and from there they get to Dharamshala जहाँ पे जो खांग बेसिकली McLeodganj धर्मशाला McLeodganj उसके ऊपर जाके in the Kangra Valley to be very much precise like a Google map जो खांग उनके एरिया का नाम होता है and वहाँ पे जाके they set that's where the whole premise is set और वहाँ पे they took Raiponche and that's how the whole journey the whole story starts from there on
yes exactly so उसके बाद I think so once she reaches McLeodganj and she's taken care of she is fed she's given all the vaccinations this and that so she falls into a routine with the Dalai Lama who wakes up every morning at 5 a.m. he meditates she already has a favorite windowsill where she sits and he pets her in the morning and I think she mentions this quite at the start that he is a cat lover because he cares for me he knows who I am and her very first interaction before she starts leaving the house and roaming about so her very first interaction comes with a client who is unkind to other living beings and that's when the Dalai Lama gets a cockroach out of a matchbox and shows that he's still living and that's where she learns her first lesson which is about kindness to every living being that ever stays on this earth and I'm mentioning this because पता चलेगा आगे जाके कि होता क्या है so she's very much content
gift का रेफरेंस दिया जा रहा है यहाँ पे जो दलाई लामा के लिए गिफ्ट लेके आती है a little heads up कुछ होने वाला है
so she tries to get all that knowledge she tries to listen in on conversations some don't make sense to her she's still a kitten some start making sense to her And I think she has this respect for Dalai Lama where I think she agrees to a lot of things he says because he gives a rational explanation to everything that he thinks and he preaches and everything. So she falls into that routine, and eventually she's a cat. And mostly I think Himalayans are outside cats more than inside cats. So they keep wandering. They could come back, they could not come back. It's entirely up to them. But they keep wandering. And when she was old enough, when she had that strength, she started wandering. And then, Saurabh, do you want to take this? What happens?
And plus, like when she was realizing more and more about what the routine of the Dalai Lama was and how would he teach and how did prayer and all those things, he started to learn and he started to get familiar with other pupils as well in the Jokhan, especially with the Chogyal and Trinchi, Chogyal, all these people. And he started to learn कि उनका और दलाई लामा का relation कैसे है, whom she can trust, whom she cannot trust, and those things. Because that's also a very important part, because there is a very interesting, it's again a little heads up, there's a very interesting incident that takes place between Chogyal and Raiponche where they basically realize where she realize यहाँ पे उसका थोड़ा सा trust and all वाली situations आती हैं, but yeah, so she starts to learn alongside the routine of the Dalai Lama about the routine of the others as well. कौन कब आता है, कौन कब जाता है, कौन यहाँ रहता है, कौन क्या काम करता है और किसकी क्या आदतें हैं. जैसे त्रिंची की बहुत पैनिक होने की आदत है कि अरे ये खराब हो गया, वो खराब हो गया, लास्ट मोमेंट पे पैनिक करने की बहुत ज्यादा आदत. And the habit of acquiring, you can say, taking the criticism very seriously. So Trinchi was that sort of a person. He always needed some review feedbacks from the others and he would take them very seriously. And Raiponche starts to realize कि क्यों ये जरूरी है, क्यों ये जरूरी नहीं है, and whatsoever it was. And yeah, so she starts to roam and she starts to see कि okay, Jokang के बाहर भी कुछ दुनिया है, and there were shops go around, and this time all around उसका खुद का routine भी set हो चुका है already. She already have a routine. When will she eat, when will she wake up, when will she rest, कहाँ पे rest करेगी, किसके साथ rest करेगी, how much will she eat and how much will she rest, और सब routine already set है उसका. And when she starts to wander around and she इधर उधर देखते दाखते सब करते कराते, she reaches a cafe Frank. That's the name that she reads, and she reaches over there. But वहाँ पे काफी अनएक्सपेक्टेड क्या था, दीन दुनिया से काफी अनएक्सपेक्टेड अभी नई नई मिस रायपोंचे को पता नहीं होता है कि दुनिया बहुत जालिम है और दुनिया जो है सबका खुले दिल से स्वागत नहीं करती है. और कैफे के अंदर जैसे वो जाती है तो उससे दूर से दिखते हैं दो प्यारे प्यारे कुत्ते जो बिल्कुल भी प्यार से उसका स्वागत नहीं करते. एंड दे चेज हर अराउंड एंड दे लाइक लेजिट चेज हर अराउंड. एंड फ्रैंक डू नथिंग अबाउट इट until unless he realizes that it's His Holiness cat. And
someone mentioned.
Yeah.
So Frank is the owner of the cafe, and the two dogs are Frank's dogs. And so, okay, now that we've reached Frank, let me give you let me shed some light on who Frank is as a character. So I will not, I would really not want to use a negative word, but they've used it in the books. I don't think I have a problem doing that. So he's a very wannabe Buddhist. Okay, so he has all this locket and chain and he doesn't, basically it's a padacharya that he's not read about Buddhism, and neither have I, so I can't really shed light as to what a wannabe Buddhism is. But what his appearance suggests is that he appearance wise वो Buddhist लगता है, but practice में, following में, having a schedule, having this meditation schedule, inner self and all of that, he's not very well aware of all those other things. And so he has a very superiority complex. He thinks he has achieved a lot in life and everything. And he sets his two dogs to chase the cat when someone points out and mentions that, oh, ye to Dalai Lama wali billi hai. And that's when he is scared in a way. He dumbs down his appearance. He welcomes the cat and he feeds the cat his roast chicken. And then he uses the cat to his advertising and marketing advantage.
यहाँ आता है उसका बिजनेस दिमाग, यहाँ आता है उसका असली brain of a businessman. He realized, and so he says this around the world that it's the favorite cafe of the Dalai Lama's cat. The Dalai Lama's cats come often over here, and she loves me. She loves the cafe because this cafe is all about Buddhism. This cafe is all about what Buddhists would like. All about the peace, all about the God, all about the meditation, या जो भी blah 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 blah. और उसके लिए वो एक स्पेशल क्वेश्चन लेके आता है, एक स्पेशल कॉर्नर बनाता है जहाँ पे उनको पता था कि इस टाइम पे दलाई लामा's cat would come in over there, Raipunchi would come over there at that specific time, और वो वहीं आके बैठेगी और उसे सर्व किया जाएगा and then she would eat it. So that's what the word जो वो पूरा spread कर देता है, so that he can very easily, you know, sell more of his cafe, you can say. So yeah, that's quite an interesting businessman mind. और उस टाइम पे like the dogs would be thinking कि what the hell is going on around, man? Like we have been working here since ever और ये आके just out of nowhere मजे ले. And I say the ये ना बहुत interesting चीज है, like deflecting a little bit from the book. I say this around about the fights often as well. ये ना मैं मूवीज में बहुत अक्सर देखता हूँ. So what happens is that कि पहले विलन जो है अपनी पूरी जैसे वो मूवीज में होता है ना कि बाप राजी नहीं हुआ और बाप जो है वो नेता वेता है, so he would send all his people to attack the hero. नहीं मेरी बेटी के लिए कुछ नहीं होगा, पीटो से जाके. और the hero would like एक एक को पीट देगा, सब कुछ हो जाएगा, but then suddenly हृदय परिवर्तन of the बाप and he joins in the hero. And I'm like, जो वो मरे इतने, जो वो पीटे इतने, उनका क्या? जैसे बाप की पिटने की बारी आई, जैसे हीरो उस तक पहुंचा के भाई अब मैं तुझे मारूंगा, उसका हृदय परिवर्तन. So you know, somewhere I guess the dogs would be feeling the same way. Like we have been serving you since so long, और हमें क्या मिल रहा है? कुछ भी नहीं. She's the selling point. She's the one getting special dishes. She's the one getting the special seat. मतलब क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे?
And she took complete advantage of that. मतलब
Totally.
Billy being Billy, she took complete advantage.
Yeah. And yeah, she told no one about this. So she had her special place at Dalai Lama's house and she had her special place at Cafe Frankena. So now she had two basic places to be available at. Or, yep.
Yeah. Then she goes home from Cafe Frank because finally she has to. She goes home and she comes across these Japanese schoolgirls. And when she comes across these Japanese schoolgirls, they start chasing her. And since she was like, it's very new to her, all this outside world. So she runs away from them because she doesn't know what else to do. So she runs away. She reaches this basement where she tries to go in. And she's scared and she halts there for 2-3 minutes before she realizes that they've gone away. And when she's exiting that basement, she hears a scurrying sound. And that is when she comes across her gift to Dalai Lama, because Dalai Lama was so kind. So a cat being a cat, she let her instincts take over. She kills the mouse, chases the mouse, kills the mouse. And okay, so there's this thing about cats, and cats are happy with you when they want to show that they love you and they appreciate and respect all that you've done for them. This is what they do. They bring you a dead animal, probably a rat, because उनके लिए, हाँ, so उनके लिए उनका खाना है और उनके खाने से इम्पोर्टेंट उनके लिए और कुछ नहीं है. तो this is their gratitude कि वो आके तुम्हें अपना खाना दे रहे हैं to show that this is the length that I love you with. So that's how they express it. So she does that and she brings it home to in the Jokhang and she presents itself very proudly in front of Chogyal and Tenzin. And that's when she realizes they are not giving her the reaction she wants. So they're basically like, what has she done? Please try to revive the mouse. Let's see if he's still breathing and everything. She's like, huh? Mere gift ka just and they successfully revive the mouse. They let him out and everything. And then this news reaches the Dalai Lama pretty late and everything. And by that time, she gets time to reflect about what she's done. So she remembered that conversation the Dalai Lama had with his first client where he says that you have to be kind to all animals. And she's like, this is my first day out. And I forgot all of that. Okay, I forgot everything and I let my instincts take over. Which I think So इससे मुझे मेरा ये था like what you say मेरा takeaway was कि this is what most humans do. Okay, we are very close to having those two choices. Okay, so it's always like the first is what you've been trained to do, right? बचपन से तुम्हारा instinct क्या होता है. The second, when you take the second option, the second, that's actually your choice. That's your choice to act on it or not act on it. You always have those two options. I mean, both options can have different consequences, but there will always be those two options where you decide whether you want to act on your instinct or you don't want. So I think this was my takeaway from that whole incident. And even she realized it, and Dalai Lama also put it across that, you know, हमेशा instantly काम नहीं करते हैं and everything when he came to know about this thing. So yes, that was her first lesson when she ventured outside in the real world.
But then she continues to do that. Like, अब उसका routine में this was a new pattern that she had, that she will go out daily, especially to the cafe Frankie, जहाँ पे उसे अपना spot मिल गया, जहाँ पे उसे like obviously अब जोखांग में the highest one was Dalai Lama, ठीक है, और उसके बाद उसके कुछ pupils and then would come around the cat because ठीक है वो दलाई लामा के close है, but she's still not someone to look after. कोई भी उसे she was just still as a guest, you can say, or she was still somebody who will be like, oh kuchi kuchi and this something. But Cafe Frank was a place where she was the one who would look after. She was the one who was idolized. She was the one who was like, ठीक है, this is the highest priority over here, और इन्हीं को सर्व किया जाएगा, इन्हीं की सुनी जाएगी. If she is not happy, she is not happy. अगर तो those were the things that she was finding in Cafe Frank. She decided like, okay, this is my area, these are my pupils basically, and now it's my turn to enlighten them. और ठीक है, like Dalai Lama is enlightening through from his like from the Jokang, and I enlightened through the cafe. So you can say she started doing freelancing. आप ऐसा कह सकते हो. She started working at open mics, you can say, at Cafe Frank. उसके अपने meditating open mics वहाँ पे हो रहे थे enlightenment के, where she was teaching. जिनसे सब खुश हो ना हो पता नहीं, but the two dogs were definitely not happy. इसलिए she had made sure कि वो ज्यादा उनके बारे में आगे बात भी ना करे. Like she has ignored them enough कि उन्होंने बुक में भी आगे कुछ बताया नहीं उसके बारे में. Like they are non-existent to me. Let's talk about people and all. They are just हो गया उनका पोपट already.
But her ventures in Cafe Frank, and then she would travel through this road jam. Mrs. Patel would also feed her some food and everything. So all these ventures where she came across different people, especially Cafe Frank, because when she was with Dalai Lama, she had access to like really top priority clients and everything. Uske alawa, she wouldn't roam in Jokhang a lot, except for visiting a couple of pupils. But when she went to Cafe Frank, she saw a lot of other people. कहाँ दूर से लोग आते थे and everything. And she would just calmly, very this thing. Of course, she would take her naps and everything, but she would observe all those people and she would form her own opinion about them. And we could see that धीरे धीरे, oh ये ऐसा है, ये वैसा है, ऐसे किया, वैसे किया. And of course, staying with Dalai Lama, so Dalai Lama also listened to music. Classical music and all kinds of good music, where even she developed that taste. And she, I think, is judging music as well when she went to Cafe Frank and she was not hearing that kind of music. So basically, this cat had her own taste, her own opinions by the time she was, I think, 6 months old. And she, of course, was loved by everyone. Everyone knew her as the Dalai Lama's cat. And that is the time when she's chosen to go to the temple for the first time, right? I think Tabhi. So उसमें भी, so everyone's like सब ऐसे ये ready हो रहे हैं and everything, and she's wondering क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, and she overhears कि temple जाना है. So and everyone's like, this is the first time this HHC will be going to the temple. So then she overhears that Dalai Lama is taking her, and she's really proud that, you know, Dalai Lama के साथ मैं temple जाने वाली हूँ and I'm going to see. वहाँ भी वो wander करती है, इधर उधर देखती है, and she gets to witness the pupils giving exams for entering the monastery. That's when she witnesses 4 people have to recite, they have to chant all that they've learned, and eventually I think they select 2 people, you know. I think that's what they do. So yes, ये सारी चीजें होती है. When one fine night, she's sitting on the windowsill and she sees another cat, a tiger tabby.
नहीं, this does not happen over here. तुम थोड़ा सा वो कर रही हो.
नहीं, it happens one night यहाँ पे.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Catches the
This was just
she
a
does not
glimpse. Yeah, it was just a glimpse. हाँ वही.
तो
I'm like, if you are
उसका
getting
क्या
into
लगता है?
tabby तो फिर अभी बहुत जल्दी हो जाएगा यार. Let's create a suspense around the tabby, right?
नहीं, she catches a glimpse and tabby saw her.
And your internet was stuck. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's working. Go
Is
ahead.
it better?
Yeah, it's working.
So she was she just got a glimpse, and the tabby of course did not see her, but for the first time she saw someone of her own breed, which is why it caught her interest. Ki kaun hai karke. But of course then we don't see tabby for quite some time.
It
Then
was
again
dark and all, or bush around the bush in the dark, sitting at the window. हो जाता है. It sometimes is also like that you're longing for so much of someone of your own kind that maybe it might be a mirage. You never know, because दोबारा तो मुलाकात होती नहीं है. But उसी के साथ another interesting incident that happens is that उसके सारे routine चलते रहते हैं आराम से मस्त एकदम. यहाँ भी चल रहा है, वहाँ भी चल रहा है. दलाई लामा उसकी पुप्पे ला रहे हैं. She's learning everything and everything is going around and around. But a very enlightening moment another that happens, which happens like around disheartening पहले फिर enlightening, is that when she decides to jump and she could not jump onto the shelf and she's like, wait a minute, what's happening? मतलब कुछ दिन पहले तक मैं यहाँ से वहाँ मजे में कूद सकती थी, and now suddenly I can just get onto the shelf, and then everybody's like, oh, you can't get on the shelf, this and that, and then I guess she falls down then.
In an undignified heap. She falls down undignified.
Yep. That was the time, like, that was a crisis time, you can say. She was injured as well. So, and then that was a time when Dalai Lama realized कि okay, कुछ गड़बड़ है actually में. And
how is she? Yeah. So she was on a diet in Dalai Lama's house where she was fed biscuits and everything. And he's like, इसकी diet में क्या problem है? Why is she putting on weight?
And then Dalai Lama said to his right hand and left hand कि भाई check करके आओ कि गड़बड़ क्या है आखिर में. What's happening around, and then they follow Raiponche, and then they follow Raiponche, and then they realize that okay, so
they make some call.
Yeah, वही and वही मतलब they track her down, you basically, and then they realize कि okay, it's a cafe around in the town who's saying कि oh, ये तो Dalai Lama's cat का favorite cafe है, ये तो उन्हीं का cafe है. This is going on and on and on, and when they were like, okay, क्या चल रहा है तो जाके देखना पड़ेगा. Like who's the one and what are they feeding especially. और तब होता है कि यहाँ पे हमें डाइट दिए जा रहे हैं, वहाँ पे वो उसको नॉन वेज डिशेज नई बना के और फ्रैंक स्पेशल खिलाया जा रहा है.
So basically, she has 3 meals inside Jokham and she has 3 meals outside Jokham. So she has Mrs. Patel ka, then she goes to Cafe Frank and has his food, and on the way again, I think Mrs. Patel feeds her. Right? So she has those 3 meals. So everyone is instructed after that nothing doing. She gets fed here, no one else is feeding. And she's very this thing, what the fuck, why are they doing this to me? I get to decide what I'm supposed to do.
And that was around the time as well जब वो फ्रैंक को उसका थोड़ा सा पहला ज्ञान भी देते हैं, like this is not how you follow Buddhism, by announcing it around कि हाँ मैं Buddhist हूँ, मैं Buddhist हूँ.
So Frank comes, okay, so then नहीं उसके पहले let's go to when the house gets painted. So when yes.
When the house gets painted, yeah, that's the time जब चोग्याल और रायपोंचे का काफी interesting incident होता है where for like obviously so right hand left hand होते हैं रायपोंचे टेंजिंग जो हैं दलाई लामा के, so even the रायपोंचे started to believe had a blind faith on them, और फिर suddenly एक दिन दलाई लामा has gone out on a certain trip, और एक दिन out of nowhere suddenly the Chogyal decides to pick up Raiponche and puts her inside a cage, you can say, a bucket cage, और वो बंद कर देता है. And now he's taking her down the forest, एकदम दूर जोखांग से, and she's not able to realize कि वो क्या रहा है. She has not seen this forest, these areas ever before, and now she has decided कि ठीक है भाई, अब दलाई लामा's कैट से रैंडम कैट होने वाली हूँ, मे बी आई विल बी सोल्ड, और अच्छा प्राइस भी मिल ही जाएगा, दलाई लामा's कैट है वैसे भी। और नो, so she is very surprised कि क्या होने वाला है क्या नहीं, she is very scared कि क्या होने वाला है क्या नहीं, and the most questionable moment for her was कि कैसे कोई किसी का like Dalai Lama's right hand can betray Dalai Lama like that, how is that even possible? दलाई वो होता है ना कि दलाई लामा आएगा तब तुझे देख लेगा, so that's going on in her mind, but then she is like अरे वो उसको देख भी लेगा तो भी मैं थोड़ी मिलने वाली हूँ, मैं तो चली जाऊंगी, मेरा भी तो कोई सोचो। And then suddenly he puts the case down, and then it's like, oh, then the Chogyal reveals the whole situation when he says that we are home, and the Jokhang, the rooms basically are getting painted. So that's the reason why he had to transfer the cat from Jokhang to his own house. And when she realizes, okay, that was normal.
That explains. Why was I stressing? Oh, I was not stressed out at all.
Yeah, and she just walks out normally, and she's like, yeah, I knew it all the way. I mean, come on.
But no, she's heartbroken. She doesn't want to stay here. She doesn't know the people here. And cats, I think, they take time adjusting to the people around. So for 4 days, she's there for a week, and for 4 days, she does not come out of her hiding place. She does not come out of this bed. जिसके नीचे वो होती है. Only when it's like a very urgent nature's call, or she wants to have her food. Only then she steps out. But then suddenly one day she does, and Chogyal's daughter or niece, I'm not sure, starts playing with her. So she puts her toe inside her ear, and and just is like, oh, I've never felt this good before. Keep doing it, keep doing it. She's purring and everything. And they discover that game. They start playing. And yes, on that night, she catches a glimpse again.
Another glimpse of a mirage that was supposed to be a mirage, but then she realizes that okay, it's not a mirage basically, and that's where she gets the glimpse of the tamed cat once again. And she starts thinking about him a little bit, and she's like, oh, क्या वो भी मेरे बारे में सोच रहा होगा, what would it be, वो यहाँ क्या कर रहा है, who is he, should I talk, should I not talk, I'm the more superior one, but क्या, and then she realizes, oh damn, why am I thinking about him so much? So, दो दिल मिल रहे हैं goes around in the background, जो बुक में नहीं लिखा है, but I'm pretty sure कि अगर इस पे मूवी बनेगी then this song fits well.
And then she waits the next day. She's like, कल मैं जाऊंगी शायद, I will go and approach this cat, and I will ask all these questions that are going on in my head. And she's really excited. She sleeps well. She's very first love kind of a thing. Teenage wala feeling aata hai usko. And next morning she wakes up and she's again dumped in the cage, taken back, and Chogyal announces that this thing ended early, so we brought you here again. And she's like, why do you keep doing this to me?
कोई उससे भी इंटीमेशन दे, कोई इससे भी उसकी परमिशन पूछे, कभी बाहर छोड़ देते हैं, कभी खाना छीन लेते हैं, कभी एक घर से दूसरे घर, कभी दूसरे घर से फिर से पहले घर, अरे यार कोई हमसे भी पूछ लो हमें क्या चाहिए.
Exactly. And of course she does not she forgets about the tabby for quite some time. I think उसके बाद there's no appearance of tabby, but उसके पहले, before the tabby reappears, we get to Mrs. Trincy and her cooking.
When some delegates were supposed to come, and Russian delegates, if I'm not wrong, Australian or Russian? Okay, I guess there are 2 times, like एक बार Australian or she was making a Russian dish.
She's making a raspberry something when her raspberry.
जब थोड़ा गड़बड़ हो जाता है कुकिंग में, and she just goes all furious जब उसे lesson मिलता है, and through those lessons even Rai Ponche learns something about patience, learns something about all these feedbacks वगैरह के बारे में, learns something about that, how you have to be more confident within your own self rather than always chasing out something last moments पे, and you can't have everything perfect, कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ जाएगा, it's pretty obvious, you can't please everybody. और एक ये इसमें बहुत एक और इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है. सो व्हेन आई वेंट टू गोकर्णा दिस February, तो वहां पे एक चीज हुई थी. सो वी वेंट टू गोकर्णा और वहां पे मैंने देखा कि लाइक ऑब्वियसली बहुत ज्यादा फॉरेन क्राउड वहां पे आता है. सो इफ यू गो टू एनी रेस्टोरेंट यू विल सी चाइनीज फूड, अमेरिकन फूड, मतलब डिशेज ऐसे मेंशन्ड है. चाइनीज, अमेरिकन, यहाँ का, वहाँ का, इजरायली, दिस एंड दैट. एंड आई एम सीइंग देयर और आई एम लाइक, I'm in South India and I can legit cannot find the South Indian food in any damn restaurant. मुझे गांव पे पूरे एरिया में जाना पड़ेगा अगर उसको ढूंढना है तो. And I mean, like, why would an Australian, it's the same way, why would an Israeli come from Israel to India to eat the Israeli food? What the hell is going on? He's
No,
here.
this with the case कि अगर तुम किसी के घर जा रहे हो basically, तो you are to experience their culture or what they do. It's necessary to eat what they eat. I'm not saying eat, non-veg or whatever. They do have non-meat dishes and everything. So ये मैंने बहुत recently through discussion सीखा, because I had the ulta complaint when I went to Kerala when I was 13. So I couldn't find my food, okay, and I was 13, okay. So I was like, I can't find my food, where then my idli dosa come. So I was like looking for a proper place to eat my kind of food. But then someone ke saath I was discussing, and he mentioned ki why, matlab you're going to their place, so why should they start doing according to how you want it, and why should you want those things? Food is also a bigger part of the culture. So we're experiencing that culture. I think it makes more sense. हाँ वैसे तो yes.
Which then is one of the
The
things,
same.
if Trinchi would have tried to serve her speciality or the speciality of the local area, that would have made more sense rather than choosing out the speciality of the delegates. कि उनके यहाँ जो मिलता है हमें वही बनाना है.
वही देना है.
Do that. Yeah.
So yeah, she tries to make this raspberry sauce, some dish, and raspberry goes missing the previous night. So she's supposed to put it on oven for some time, and she wakes up in the middle of the night and she discovers that raspberries are missing. And now what she's supposed to do? वो पूरा घर सर पे उठा लेती है, legit पूरा घर सर पे उठा लेती है. She's barking orders, shouting here and there. She's angry, and no one wants to get on the bad side of her. Even HSC is like, yeah, I'm not going to her.
आज मेरा उपवास है, आज भूख ही नहीं लगी थी.
So this happens when Dalai Lama walks in, and so this is another thing, that Mrs. Trincy is two different people. In front of everyone. So in front of everyone, she's this, stud of the house, and she's like, no one is superior to me. This kitchen is my kitchen. But then the Dalai Lama comes, and in his presence, I'm quoting here, in his presence, she's like a blushing schoolgirl. In his presence. So that's the change that the Dalai Lama brings about. And he asks, why are you angry? And she's like, I'm always angry. He's like, are you angry now? She's like, no. Like, how are you always angry? So these two they have a simple conversation, and he's just questioning what she thinks. And obviously then he tries to make her understand that always whenever you're angry, that anger first hurts you the most, because you have that hate, you have that negative energy, you have all those things. So whenever you're angry, just take a deep breath, decide how much is important, what is important. And again, which I took away, ki my thumb rule is ki if it makes me angry after 24 hours, then I'm legit allowed to get angry. If it's very, it's very immediate, if it's very instinctive, then I think I'll calm down after, 6 hours, 7 hours, probably. If it's something big. But yes, and I do that for a lot of ideas also. There are some ideas that, that are very brilliant at the word go. And I'm like, let's not get excited. Let's give it 24 hours. If I'm still as excited about this idea, then I will take it ahead. So that's my rule of thumb. And which is what he was trying to say, that you're not always angry. So just because you think, you are always angry. And then she's like, I can't help it. Sometimes these circumstances go about, external circumstances, and I start getting angry. And that's when he suggests meditation to her. And she's like, but I'm not a Buddhist. And he's like, you don't have to be a Buddhist to meditate. You can just do it by your own. And he makes her understand. And just before she's about to leave, she poses this one question that, can I ask you something? And the Dalai Lama says, yes, go ahead. Like, why have you not tried to convert me to Buddhism? And he's like, because you don't ask for it. I don't convert, like, हम ये नहीं करते कि किसी को मेडिटेट कराने के लिए फॉलो कराने के लिए कन्वर्ट करते. They come to us, they tell us that they want to, only then is, you know, when we try and tell them ki try doing this, try doing that. If it brings you happiness, if it brings you what you want, if it gives you peace, only then we ask you to, and only upon your consent. There's nothing like we try to convert to something, and we don't approach.
Yeah, this is one of the things कि peace पाने के लिए और to meditate, to be enlightened, to find the peace, to be self-reliable, or you can say to be okay within yourself. It does not matter कि आप कौन सा religion follow करते हो. What all it matters is कि आप क्या practice follow करते हो.
Exactly. So yes, that happens. Then there is the Kai Kai incident where the dog shows up in Jokhang. So I think Chogyal and Tenzin, one of the helpers of Dalai Lama, they found this abandoned puppy, and since he was abandoned, they brought him to Dalai Lama's abode, and he's called Kai Kai. K-Y-I-K-Y. I don't really know how to
Let's keep it Kai Kai.
Let's go with Kai. Yes, let's go with that. And HHC wakes up to this smell. What is this? Who is here? She walks to the kitchen and she finds kitchen or some lobby, and she finds that there is this person here, this another species here. Who is this? What is he doing here? And so since we all know that dogs and cats are pet differently, so cats are left to their own doing, and dogs are given more attention. So, and especially because one of the two rescued him, so he was given more attention. He was given food, he was given water, and he was being pet, and he wasn't saying anything. They were baby talking the dog, and she was like, doesn't he have respect? Why are they baby talking him? He's not supposed to be taught like that. And there was a tad bit jealousy. ऐसे कैसे कर सकते हैं? मैं यहाँ पहले आई थी. So this is again like my takeaway was sibling rivalry. कि जब कोई दूसरा बेबी बॉर्न होता है तो पहले वाला होता है ये क्या है? मुझे चाहिए attention.
But then my thing from here is that कि हम अक्सर ना we start valuing ourselves on the perspective of कि और लोग हमें कैसे treat कर रहे हैं at a certain time period, rather than कि हम हमारे बारे में क्या सोच रहे हैं. So that's what was going around in her head कि okay, now I'm I don't matter anymore. अब मैं special नहीं रही because they are not talking to me much, they are not roaming around with me much. But the whole fact I feel was that कि the dog was rescued very newly, so they had to make him comfortable enough about the surroundings basically, or it was enough time for Raiponche कि वो वहाँ रह रही थी, and I guess they had started feeling Raiponche as a family member. मैं तो ये भी मान लेता अगर वो उस पे डॉग पे थोड़ा सा पट्टा लगा के Raiponche के हाथ में दे देते कि हम जरा जाके आते हैं, जरा इसका ख्याल रखना. So they had कि ठीक है, now she is a part of all this and she knows over here, मतलब खुद से कहीं भी आ जा सकती है, and often she communicates with people in her own ways, but this is a new person over here and we need to take care of him at least थोड़ा बहुत. So yeah.
And then, so एक दिन ऐसे चलता है when, you know, she spends the whole night being very jealous. Okay, I think I'm stuck. Am I stuck? She spends the whole night very jealous with the dog, and you know, she's like trying to come to terms with it. कि यार क्यों ऐसे क्यों कर रहे, सब ठीक चल रहा है, but now this dog has to suddenly come. And next morning she wakes up and she overhears the abandoned wala story where, you know, he's abandoned and he's making a noise and the neighbors are not treating him well, and then she remembers the first time she saw the dog, and she had an experience with Frank's dogs who were very well treated and very loved and everything, and she saw the difference that this dog was very subdued, he was very quiet and he was not like that. And somewhere she was okay. Her jealousy went away and she even went to sniff the dog. Not that she went to his area or something. She went to sniff the dog. And at that moment, she decided that, yes, he can stay here and I will not be jealous. I have my own place here. So I think, again, the whole thing where, you know, give it time, give it some time to deal with all those negative feelings that you're dealing with someone else. So, मतलब बेसिक इन इंसिडेंट से ऐसे कभी कभी लगता है कि बहुत यू मतलब पर्सोनिफाई कर दिया है बिल्ली को, and they're trying to tell us something that, you know, these are all the emotions that even we feel at times. We feel gluttony, we want to eat so much, and then we suddenly don't want to eat at all. We feel gluttony, we feel insecurity, we feel jealousy, we feel very instinctive and impulsive with our decisions. And yes, so all these are like trying to tell us that, ठहरो, रुको, सोचो, उसके बाद कुछ करो.
That's true. And then another crisis walks into her life about her fur balls.
What?
Fur balls. Fur. When she starts losing her fur. That's another crisis that walks into her life. जब she reaches a certain, like, जिसके बारे में, like, she had no idea about it, obviously, because she was not breeded around with other cats. She had never met other cats, basically. So she had no idea कि लाइफ स्पैन में, यू कैन से, जैसे हम एडल्ट होते हैं, सो द सेम वे व्हेन द कैट्स ग्रो अप, दे हैव दिस period in their lifespan where they start losing some fur, and that was just surprising for her. And then she was feeling a little insecure बोलेंगे, or you can say she was feeling a little bit like, oh ये क्या हो रहा है यार, हाँ वो nauseous, sort है यार, ये क्या हो रहा है यार, और क्या सोचेंगे मेरे बारे में, I'm being more dirty now. So those things started to happen, and that's again where she realized another lesson. Okay, growing up, this is a part of growing up, basically, where changes happen. Yes. Changes happen mentally, changes happen physically, and nothing. Even those changes do not change your value in front of the eye, in front of the eyes of the people who actually care about you, and it should not change your value in front of your own eyes as well.
True. So her stomach churns and turns, and suddenly there is this vomit that comes out, which is basically her own fur that she's been eating. And they figure out a solution later, and then she sleeps. She's like, हाँ, कुछ ऐसा बहुत unpleasant चीज होने के बाद बहुत अच्छी नींद आती है, so I'm going off to sleep. You guys can do whatever. And she goes off to sleep, and then I think Tenzin brings a brush. So when he brushes her, the hair starts coming off. Yeah. They do that regularly, so she's not vomiting fur balls. That happens. And then when Kiki is Kai is old enough, they call Frank, because Frank already has dogs, and they call Frank. And also they wanted to meet Frank because of all the Rinpoche food that he was feeding her and everything. And that's when Frank first time meets Dalai Lama. For the first time, Frank meets Dalai Lama. So Frank is like very dressed up to meet Dalai Lama. And
dressed up as a Buddhist almost. It's like, हाँ हम ही हैं सच्चे बुद्धिस्ट, भले हम आपसे मिले हो ना मिले हो, ज्ञान लिया हो ना लिया हो, बट हम ही हैं जो आपकी गैर मौजूद, या कह सकते हैं कि जहाँ तक आपकी मौजूदगी नहीं पहुँच रही है, वहाँ हम ही हैं जो आपका ज्ञान पहुँचा रहे हैं.
Exactly. And then you see the author David Misch, actually, or the Billy, they point out the very evident differences. Like Frank has Om ka necklace, and he has those beads and all of that tika and everything. And the Dalai Lama is just in his robe with no appearance wala Buddhist cheese except his knowledge, of course. But that's not appearance mein nahi aata. So that is the difference that you can see ki someone who's practicing it in such a long time and someone who is just pretending to be practicing it in such a long time. And they get into a conversation. Where they are. Frank is asked as to, do you have a teacher? Do you meditate? And all those answers are negative. And then he shows some interest. He wants to do it. So he asks Dalai Lama to suggest a teacher. And Dalai Lama does. And I don't know, Chogyal and Tenzin, like, they have a hard time controlling their laughter. So basically, this teacher is obviously a very experienced teacher in this Buddhism ka thing. But he will not take bullshit from anyone. He's very strict, he's very firm, and he wants to know that you want it as much as he does.
You have to earn his teachings, basically.
Exactly.
You just can't go there and be like, fees भर दी मैंने, चलो मुझे पढ़ाओ. ऐसा नहीं चलता यहाँ पे. You have to earn me as a teacher.
Exactly. So after a lot of meetings, he finally decides to teach Frank. and they get in like first time Rinpoche accompanies Frank. Okay, so Frank is like very happy to see a familiar face and everything, and then his happiness is short lived because he comes across with Geshe Wangpo, I think the teacher guy name. I think. So Geshe Wangpo and Frank get into a discussion. Basically, Geshe Wangpo uski puri le lete hain. But I think it helps Frank realize what he really wants in life. And then we see a transformation where Frank starts losing his accessories. He starts meditating. He comes to the cafe late because he's meditating early in the morning. And I think he finds his peace. And then we know the moment has come where so I think so in the meanwhile he's running his business, but he's not thinking about his business as much. Decides to convert it into a book cafe, finds an owner, finds another buyer, sells it to him. And then when he's sitting once, when it's all happening, there are these two people who are like, we've heard a lot about this place, but we've also heard that there's a wannabe Buddhist and we want to avoid it. They go and tell this to Frank, and he's like, there was, and he tells them his transformation story. So we see Frank's character being developed a lot here. Like, he was this person who only thought about his business, only thought about that would make him happy, even though he had two dogs, and it was all his, what do you say? And it's not wrong. I mean, even we also a lot of times think about all these things, and we think that these things make us happy. मतलब ये कर लिया तो खुश हो जाएंगे, ये कर लिया तो खुश हो जाएंगे, जबकि there shouldn't be a condition to happiness is what I think Frank wanted to, or peace for that matter. I think that's what he wanted to convey. So yeah, he sold his business, opened a bookstore, and a proper Buddhist bookstore, not the wannabe kind where he tried to sell and try to transform people and give them an idea as to what the whole thing is, not even trying to convert it. So that was Frank's transformation. And one more thing जो last में हुआ था, do you remember? जो दो लोगों को select किया था monastery के exam के time पे, वो दो लोग कौन थे? There were two pupils who were selected. So those two people were the ones who tried to sell HHC the first time. Those two people.
वक्त का पहिया कैसे घूमता है?
Yes. So they were selected to this thing. So वो चीज भी I'm bringing about because so like you said कि Dalai Lama had the option, वो चिल्ला सकते थे, वो उनको सुना सकते थे, वो उनको arrest करवा सकते थे for that matter क्योंकि उनका नहीं है. But when they had to choose, so four candidates they chose two candidates. So there was no parameter to choose these two candidates because all four were equal. सबने equally अटके थे, सब equally अच्छे से बोले थे, सब ये हुआ. वो दो लोग को इसीलिए choose किया था so that they can make amends to what they used to do. So
you see that they needed it the most basically because that's another it is that आपको किसी को goodwill देना है, then you should not choose somebody who has an angel within them because they'll find goodwill somewhere already. You need to give goodwill to somebody who have demons inside them, who are struggling with the demons and don't even realize it because they are the one who need it the most somewhere.
Exactly. Just I think there's a lot of concept की jail वाला concept like इंडिया में कुछ भी होता है जेल में डाल देते हैं, but jail like सबके लिए different matter होता है. अगर मुझे जैसे इसलिए भी बोला है कि अगर जेल में डालेंगे तो it's a thing about personal growth. Like people should be happy that they're growing personally, get a lot of time to think and introspect. But at the same time, you're not counseled. So if you don't know that what you did was wrong, if you know तो एक बार के लिए ठीक है, but many of them, एक entitlement आ जाता है कि हाँ मैंने किया इसमें क्या हुआ. So unless you're counseled properly, there's no what do you say, correction centers कि तुमने जो किया गलत किया, क्यों किया, trying to understand the psyche basically. तो जब तक वो नहीं आएगा तब तक तो we will not really know कि वो लोग जब निकलेंगे तो भी they might just as well do something else and be again caught or not caught in fact if they do it better. So basically वही चीज है कि you know that they're wrong, so he gave a chance to correct themselves, he gave a chance to amend themselves, And even she was surprised. She was there when this conversation happened, HHC. So like, wait, I know this story. ये क्या हो रहा है मुझे पता है. But yes, they do apologize. They thank Dalai Lama for this opportunity, and they know now that why they were selected. Like no one really knew, and everyone knows now why they were selected. So this is one thing that happened.
And
And of course,
बीच में मोहब्बत के फूल जो खिलते हैं. Let's
coming
get
back
to
to the
that.
tiger tapping.
Yeah.
So coming back to the tiger tapping. His name is Mambo. And हमारी HHC गई finally उसको मिलने को एक रात गई उसके साथ बात किया. He recognized her. He said, "Oh, you are the Dalai Lama's cat. You're practically royal."
But the that's like जब वो एक बार दोबारा मिलते हैं, that's not where she gets his name. उसका नाम वो तब मिलता है ना when they meet outside Cafe Frank basically एक बार.
Yes.
And that's where she asked him, what's your name? And तब उनके name exchange होते हैं basically. उससे पहले उनकी सिर्फ intellectual बातचीत होती है. Raipoche being Raipoche wants to talk more intellectual, and then obviously she was brushing her bed, तो इधर उधर की बातें ज़्यादा हो गई. मेन मुद्दा थोड़ा सा छूट गया. And when they met outside Cafe Frank, there was the time when she finally asked that what's your name, and she was all like, you know, ठीक है तुमने मुझे पहचान लिया. Oh, I'm going on. I'm feeling happy कि ठीक है इसने मुझे पहचाना and this and that, and they exchange his name और तब पता लगता है that Mambo was the name of the tamed cat. And when he asked her name, and जो book के starting से ही चलता आ रहा है कि मेरे बहुत नाम है, मैं कौन सा बताऊँ.
So, but he recognizes her. He tells her, "You're practically royalty," and she's like, "Oh, you're the street cat and everything." So they have that kind of exchange also, where she tries. She doesn't try, but in her heart, she's like, "Oh, I'm superior to him somewhere." But no, she doesn't let it get in between their conversations. And one day again, she meets him. He's waiting for her, and I think I'm quoting again.
इससे पहले एक और movement आता है और वो यही आता है guess where she had some movement and then she says कि dear readers, I'm not that sort of an author and this is not that sort of a book, okay? वो सब चाहिए तो कहीं और जाके पढ़ो. This is more intellectual book. And I was like, yeah, she was being very professional over here for sure.
Yes, definitely. एक second.
Yeah, sure.
मैंने भेजा हुआ घूमना पड़ेगा.
अभी भेजा लिख के दे.
अरे नहीं यार. Sorry.
It's not mute by the way, अगर तुम्हें लगा कि mute था.
अरे नहीं यार, मुझे figure out करने में time लगा.
नहीं हुआ. Yeah, so we were.
नहीं मुझे figure out.
So we were in love story.
Yeah, we were.
Boomer, boomer, हमारा प्यारा boomer.
जैसे हर love story में होता है, मेरी भी mom आ गई थी तो इस love story में. But yes, so so she does say that, dear readers, this is not that kind of a book, and I'm not that kind of a cat, and we're not going into that discussion. But eventually, then she comes home. She comes to Jokhang, and then suddenly Chogyal and Tenzin realized that oh, इसको तो बहुत time हो गया हमारे पास आके. She was just a kitten when we had her, and the puppy like they were like कि काय के पहले आई थी, तो बहुत पहले आई थी काय से. So we need to get her vaccinated again, and you know उसका जो microchip है वो सब भी देखना है, वो सब ठीक कराना है. Let's plan a visit to the vet. They take her to the vet, and she's pregnant. So this cat basically has everything. She has the best life. She has a very nice romance. She becomes a mother, and of course, then she gives birth, I think, to a litter of 4 or 6 towards the end of the book. So towards the end, यही होता है that she learns all these things. She becomes a mother, and she like she's very bodhi cat हो जाती है. वो उसको बहुत सारी चीजें होती है. एक और डिस्कशन जहाँ पे होता है कि the whole jail thing again कि you know at times, even if you're not in jail, not in physical jail, you're actually in your mind jail where you want to get out, but you can't. And at that point of time, Dalai Lama looks at her, he looks at her, एक glance देता है वो, and she's like, I have never thought of myself as being a prisoner because she had that option to go around. But in a way, वो जोखांग या मैक्लोडगंज के बाहर कभी गई नहीं. So it was again to our interpretation as to there are some barriers in our head, which of course he has called as prison, and we are prisoners. Just say sometimes you want to do something, but probably society की वजह से you can't. You want to do something else, but you have other commitments. So they are all basically जैसे you want to travel, but नहीं हो सकता तुम्हारी कुछ other commitments जो भी है. So they are all like. All of these instances had some key takeaway. At least for me, they did. I don't know. सबके लिए कुछ अलग-अलग ही था. तो मेरे लिए यही था कि कर सकते हैं, जो चाहा वो कर सकते हैं. Just वो होना चाहिए कि कब and have a game plan in your head and just go ahead and do it. I mean, see, I think we have that brain to think कि हम क्या कर सकते, क्या नहीं कर सकते, and we should take advantage of that thinking power that we have. So again, so she, I think, escaped being a prisoner from there. She loved, or she accepted. It was both of those things. She escaped also because वो जाती रहती थी. She accepted also that this is the life she wants, and she lived up to it. Mrs. Trincy got her patience back. She's very normal after that. She tried to meditate. Even if not meditate, she was not losing her temper. Frank transformed like very nicely.
And इसी सब के बीच में like when she was struggling with her own prison and तो उसमें आता है that she quoted that the cats might not have all those careers to follow or dreams or ज़्यादा बड़े tasks or food to put on the table probably, but we still have existential crisis because we have our own fights to or our own wars to fight. भले ही we are not as similar to the humans in terms of our difficulties, but हैं हमारे भी हैं. And yeah, so in the end, everybody finds peace in their own sense, and she learns each and every lesson, सबके through, through Frank, through Chogal, through the dog, through the other cats, or
other clients as well.
Yeah, the clients, other pupils, Dalai Lama himself, उसके खुद के lessons जो होते हैं रायपुंचे के, and definitely of the Frank, because that's the ending scene basically where the Frank is now opening up the new bookstore. And Sam comes in और वो सारा चल रहा सेरेमनी चल रही है और वहाँ बातचीत चल रही है and they get to talk who's from where and this and that and she's thinking inside her own head right पहुँचे कि okay this been a hell of a journey जो भी पूरा हुआ था and now we are here what cafe was कैसे शुरू हुआ था कैसे वो पहुँची थी and from there how she took over basically Cafe Frank उसी का ही हो चुका था technically then how Frank transformed and it's a whole story of Raiponche itself. तो पूरी book में Raiponche has made sure that उसने lessons like as said कि हम जो lessons है सिर्फ हमारे experiences से नहीं सीखते हमारे observation से भी हम बहुत कुछ सीखते हैं what others are experiencing अगर हम उसे observe कर पाएं कहीं ना कहीं then we start getting more lessons और that's why I always say that इसलिए मुझे बुक इसलिए मैं सजेस्ट भी की थी इसलिए मुझे बुक भी बहुत ज्यादा सही लगी थी was the reason being because he very type के writer थे Raiponche is a writer which is my sort of a writer a one who writes from the experience and the one who writes from the observations as well there have to be a blend of experiences and observations and that's what sort of a writer Raiponche was.
मुझे तो I mean there were different key takeaways. I am myself a cat lover, so this is like a very fun read. And मुझे ये चीज अच्छी लगी कि it was not very philosophical. It was not बहुत difficult to understand. They were very basic circumstances, basic scenarios that took place over the course of the book. And at the same time ऐसे नहीं था कि वो कैट को कोई सुपर पावर दे दिया था उन्होंने कि वो सब माइंड रीड कर सकती है ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. The only thing was कि उसके perspective से लिखो and they had these embarrassing moments also. जैसे there was this one time where press बहुत सारा आया था to cover some event and HHC being Billy, HHC being HHC, उसने I think she was found peeing when the main event was unloading and everything. She was found peeing behind a bush. And more than anything, more than the press coverage of that event, this video on YouTube went viral where Dalai Lama's cat is being Dalai Lama's cat. So that was this whole thing. Ki, although she was given that title, she was given wo Oda, wo Rutba, she was still a cat eventually. मतलब she was special. उसको उसकी writings में है कि हाँ मेरे से बढ़कर कोई नहीं है. But I think Dalai Lama also treated her like a normal cat. He was not like, she's my favorite cat. He was not differentiating amongst her. Just that she became a part of his family. So there is that. मुझे वो चीज अच्छी लगी.
Alright, so that was the whole story. I guess we covered it all inside out शुरू से end तक. Where spoilers bolo ya na bolo, I don't know, but yep, so that was the whole story. विस्तार पूर्वक बीच के सारे मधुर रसों का इस्तेमाल करते हुए हमने बहुत अच्छे से इसकी व्याख्या की है. आप कोई हमसे ये ना पूछे कि लेखक इस पंक्ति से क्या कहना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि हम बता चुके हैं लेखक कहाँ से क्या कहना चाहते हैं. So yeah, so next segment would be that if you would have one take, obviously the book have so much takeaways, but सिर्फ एक point out करना, just one. I have pointed out myself already that why I love book. If I had to say only one reason, then I would say that I connected with Rai Ponche as a writer so much because I am that sort of a writer who experience and observe both and makes a blend and then pens down everything. So what was your takeaway?
Simplicity. My takeaway was simplicity. Because all these concepts, anger, gluttony, jealousy, insecurities, happiness, they are all very abstract concepts. But this particular book, and it's not like I'm not read about all these things. We have read a lot about all these things. They're very basic things. But with the simplicity, you pick up a book, you read Buddhism, you think कि थोड़ा heavy stuff होगा. And I was very surprised जब ऐसा नहीं था. बहुत simple way में conversation way में उन्होंने ये चीजें सामने लाई है. So I love the book because of its simplicity, because of how they very अच्छे से smoothly, effortlessly they put across whatever they want.
And yeah, and coming out of this parallel world, if I had to appreciate David Meach as well, so I'd say कि बहुत से ऐसी interesting like कुछ जो clients आए थे, so those clients were like big mafia people, as in जो रईसज़ादे होते हैं, who are into couple of bad stuff you can say, और कैसे बिना उनका नाम, because it's a cat saying it and cat can even reveal the name man, उसमें क्या जाता है, but being बिना नाम लिए, how would they, he put out a, how do you say, एक ओपिनियन उनके बारे में, बट इट्स नॉट डेविड ओपिनियन, वही इट्स अ कैट्स ओपिनियन अबाउट दैट गाय कि वो बुरा है या उसने जो भी माफियागिरी की है और व्हाटएवर इट इज, विदाउट बीइंग सेइंग. हाँ,
for the first time now, like if I say Saurabh Sharma or if I say Divya Anandani, and if you don't know those people, but if I describe, you have this image. So अब तक ऐसा लगता था before reading this book that as a writer I am supposed to have a name, a character name. I can't just have a description and not have a name. So I am supposed to do that. But this particular book, इतने सरल तरीके से, इतने simple way में, the cat has described those characters without actually giving us a name. He's just referred कि एक आध नाम दिया है, which is again a made up name. But एक आध जगह पे जैसे वो queen आई थी, तो वो queen कहाँ की थी we don't know. We just know that she was a queen, and we don't know of course because of course उसका तो confidentiality वही होगा कि अगर ये चीज हो भी सकता है, नहीं भी हो सकता, but queen बोल दिया and that's it, बस खत्म. We can imagine it ourselves.
Yeah, that was the thing. And yep, so going ahead, so one thing that you would like to change about the book if you had the power to, and you have to say, you can't say सब perfect था कुछ भी नहीं, you have to say one thing, you have to, it can be anything.
I would really want to know if Dalai Lama actually had a cat. That I would like to change. Some clarification ki, no, this is a work of fiction, some clarification. Now I'm like really, I want to know.
Okay. So my thing would be that I still feel कि book बहुत छोटी थी. I would feel कि मुझे और जानना था. I wanted to know more. और you can say बीच के बहुत से instances जिसमें उन्होंने वो किया था कि अब ये हो गया, उसका सीधा अगला इंसिडेंट. I wanted to know more कि ठीक है और क्या क्या हुआ इस बीच में, ये कैसे हुआ, वो कैसे हुआ, मे बी. सो आई फेल्ट कि बहुत कुछ और लिखते तो और मजा आ जाता, बिकॉज इट वाज नेवर बोरिंग एट एनी पॉइंट. anyway, so I just felt कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं था कि बुक को छोटा रखना मजबूरी था. It would have been a bit more lengthy, you can say. It would have still
So,
been more
it,
interesting. और I would say कि इसका अगर एक और part आ जाता where she would have come in
हाँ,
and say
but I was,
what she was as a mother, और या उसके
हाँ,
जो भी kittens से उनकी life कैसे हुई, or as a family, so maybe probably more lessons that she could have learned being a family person.
हाँ. But at the same time, it was not rushed. मतलब ऐसा नहीं था
Hmm.
कि incomplete लगा. So,
It wasn't
but yes,
incomplete, obviously. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
but yes. How about the cover?
Oh yeah. So I felt कि cover was intriguing enough. I mean, सारे elements के हिसाब से, and the most important thing about it was that कि बहुत pleasing था. It's resting कि आप जो हो, मतलब इतना फ्लैशी नहीं है कि ओ ये क्या है वो क्या है, कि दुनिया भर में यार इतनी cats हैं. Like just assume if Dalai Lama never had a cat, then there could have been thousands of possible ways of showing a Himalayan breed cat. But the picture that they have chosen is actually so calming and so intriguing, because we all know that eye says a lot, and just for eyes ka peak, it says so much. It says so much around it. So yeah.
So, before I answer, do you judge a book by its cover?
Obviously, I mean 110%. क्यों ना करें, तो कवर ही क्यों है, कवर हो ही ना फिर इतनी, मतलब. और सी ऑथर ने बुक लिखी, बहुत अच्छी बात है, सो मच ऑफ अ गुड थिंग, बट वो इन्वेस्ट अगर कर ही रहा है तो अच्छे डिजाइनर को बोले अच्छा कवर बनवाए, वरना फिर एक काम करो ना, पेंट खोलो, पेंट पे नाम लिखो एंड जस्ट पब्लिश इट बाय इटसेल्फ. इफ कवर डज नॉट मैटर देन मेक इट रॉ इनफ ना. एंड इसके बिफोर आंसर इससे एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी आई थी. So once, like yeah, I think Microsoft was hiring, so what they did was कि उन्होंने अपनी जो उनकी giant screen थी outside their whole company, वहाँ पे पेंट खोला और पेंट पे लिख दिया we need a designer. Like legit उन्होंने पेंट पे ये लिख दिया that we don't have a designer basically, so we need it. So that so
ये
do it
चीज
that raw अगर करना ही है तो.
ये चीज मैंने भी देखी थी. सो एक लाइब्रेरी में मिस्ट्री सेक्शन, तो मिस्ट्री सेक्शन सारे बुक्स ऐसे होते हैं, राइट? मतलब ऐसे होते हैं. यहाँ पे तुम मिस्ट्री सेक्शन में एक तो ऐसे रखे थे, ठीक है, दिस वाज फेसिंग द फ्रंट. एंड एक और जगह पे जहाँ ऑल द बुक्स वर कवर्ड विद द स्कूल में नहीं, ब्राउन पेपर
Yeah, I know. But their whole topic was that the book should not be judged with the cover, so that's why we wrap it up. And then I feel that you are taking away an element of the book, you are taking away an effort from the artist who has made the cover. यार वो efforts कर रहा है, आप उसका ऐसे नहीं वो कर सकते that it's not an important part of it. वो है तो है, नहीं है तो नहीं है. I don't think that's how it works. क्योंकि कवर में सिर्फ आर्ट नहीं जाती है, उसमें आपको फॉन्ट्स देखने पड़ते हैं, प्लेसमेंट्स देखनी पड़ती हैं. फिर ये लोग आजकल ट्रेंड जो चल रहा है रिव्यूज डालने का, बड़ा बड़ा ऊपर नीचे रिव्यूज लिखते हैं, तो वो चलते हैं. कितना कुछ सोचना पड़ता है यार. You can't take away that from an artist and saying don't judge a book by its cover, सिर्फ कंटेंट ही देखने जाओ. I mean, and we are in such a modern world, I guess हर किसी को 5 सेकंड में इम्प्रेस करना is so tough. और बुक का 300 पेज का कंटेंट 5 सेकंड में वो कैसे इम्प्रेस करेगा? There is no way. Like a प्लॉट तक 5 सेकंड में नहीं पढ़ सकते हो. So that's the reason why कि एक एसेट है कहीं ना कहीं राइटर्स के लिए कि उनको आर्टिस्ट्स मिलते हैं, वो पुट आउट देयर स्टोरी in just a single image and make sure कि लोग उठाएं उसको बुक शेल्फ्स में से. So I definitely go by this thing that you should judge a book by its cover for sure.
But I think so. Going back, मतलब पहले के ज़माने में, I think this saying is not very new. It is a pretty old saying that we should not judge a book by. So I think what used to happen, like मेरे साथ हुआ है कि पापा पढ़ते थे जेम्स हार्डी चेज की बुक्स. अब जेम्स हार्डी चेज राइट्स thriller and mystery novels. So, but if you see his book covers, they are अश्लील book covers. मतलब they are of semi-clad women. Okay. जबकि book में ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता था. I have asked my father, not actually read the book, but I have asked my father that is there any scene in the book that represents this cover? He was like no. So probably at that time, बेचने के लिए शायद they would attract people by this cover. Probably it's what I'm assuming. They could. Easily, hence, I think the whole thing came about that don't judge a book by its cover, because be tragic. तुम obviously उस business में तुम try करोगे कि जो story है उस हिसाब से cover बनेगा. But पहले में भी जब books इतनी pick up नहीं होती थी पहले के ज़माने में and everything, तो तभी I think one way of selling the book was its cover, and hence the whole thing, like जो actual book readers हैं वो have a problem कि यार तुम कुछ तो relatable डालो cover पे, शायद they came up with कि you should not judge a book by its cover. Probably वो हो सकता है. But yeah, even I like this cover. मुझे font काफी अच्छा लगा because it has a cat वाला चीज उसपे. And yes, like I said, it's pretty calming. It's very resting. It's very peaceful. अच्छी book है. Looks good. Will feel good while you book.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we covered all the elements and now we can finally conclude around as we said कि reviews वगैरह नहीं है तो इसमें कुछ भी ऐसे stars या वो सब नहीं आने वाला है. 3 good things we liked, 3 things we hated, how many stars we give, नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं आने वाला है. But yeah, we would drop down one suggestion basically. So why should people read this book? One suggestion.
Lots of things. So, if you are a writer, then this is a very simple book. And if you want to write your own book or something, then I think it's a lesson as to how to put your ideas. Like you will have many complex ideas. So you will want to put across something in a very nice way, not in a very elaborate fashion. So this is a book for the writers who want to get into writing. For cat lovers, this is your pick. You have to read it if you're a cat lover, and especially if you own cats, because it will be far more relatable than to someone who doesn't own a cat.
And I would say if you own cats, read this book to your cat. Maybe your cat get an idea of writing a book, and maybe your cat, obviously animals can't be the author, so your cat might put your name as an author. You never know that, so that would be a nice practice to do.
True. And for any other reader, I think it's a decent read. It is it's not a self-help. I wouldn't call it a self-help book. It's a philosophical book. So it has a story to it. So I'm not much of a self-help person. So it has a story to it. It has an interesting story. It has a beginning. It has an end. It has a middle part of it. So it is a story. So you guys can read it, and like I said, there are takeaways. If you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling anger, I think it helped me. So it could help anyone else. So especially this time lockdown hai, cheezein achhi nahi chal rahi hai. So it's a very simple read. It's not heavy on the heart. It's not heavy concept wise also. It's not very deep. It's very to the point, simple, and very subtle about all this.
Yeah, true. And my suggestion would be like why one should pick this book would be that it's intellectual without being intellectual. It does not go like this is what dharma means, this is what meditation means, this is what peace means, this is what heart means, or all this goodwill, badwill, demons and angels. But it explains it by itself. आपको समझना है आप समझो, नहीं समझना है आप नहीं समझो. They don't question it, they don't answer it. It's just a part of जो भी चल रहा है आसपास. It's totally like कि जो हो रहा है वो बता रहे. अब आप इससे क्या समझ रहे हो ये आपकी मर्जी है. So it's very intellectual without being intellectual at all. It's totally based on a story, but it has so many meanings. But वही चीज है कि आपको जो मीनिंग ढूंढना है आपको वो मिल जाएगा अपने आप. So it's a book that will teach you by itself, like you learn by yourself, you can say in one sense, and you'll not have to find out कि क्या इसका कुछ मतलब है क्या या उसका कुछ मतलब है क्या. जहां आपको जो मतलब समझना होगा the book explains it by itself and you'll know it without even putting any effort to it. So if you love an intellectual book which is effortless, then this is that. A totally effortless book. जैसे मेडिटेशन इज सो एफर्टलेस कि आपको सिर्फ बैठना है शांति में. यू डोंट हैव टू डू एनीथिंग. आपको कुछ सुनना नहीं है किसी का, आपको किसी को कुछ बोलना नहीं है. इट्स बुक एग्जैक्टली दैट. It heals you up without doing anything, without you putting any effort. You will be healed. So yeah.
It's a very open-ended book, open to interpretation. So yes, that is it, I think.
So with that, the Two Bookdragons would conclude the first episode of Two Bookdragons, where we did a good dissection of the Dalai Lama's cat. एक बार लास्ट बार दिखा देते हैं उन्हें. Just find it out. Just find it out. The Dalai Lama's cat, we dissected well, and I hope आप लोगों को पसंद आया होगा. And you guys can definitely drop down the feedbacks in the comments. You guys can drop down the feedbacks by reaching to us on our personal DMs. Description में सब available है. And yep. Any closing thoughts, Miss Divya?
No, I was very nervous, but I'm glad we did this. Although मैं अभी comments जाके पढ़ूंगी.
Yep. And we will not give any revelation about कि अगली book कौन सी है. You guys have to wait for that. But all I can say is that once again it'll be very interesting one. And क्या कह रही थी?
डिसाइड ही नहीं किया ना.
Exactly. You don't have to tell this, ना?
Transparency होनी है.
Yeah, we can say that guys ये सिर्फ आपके लिए मिस्ट्री नहीं है, ये हमारे लिए भी मिस्ट्री है कि अगली बुक कौन सी है.
No, but if you guys want us to review a book that you have liked personally, you guys can also suggest those books we will read.
Yeah.
Physical copies तो sure नहीं कर सकते, but Kindle पे तो पढ़ ही सकते हैं.
Yeah. So we'll dissect those books for you. Just drop down in the comments जो भी मन है, चाहे वो कितनी भी अजीब क्यों ना हो. And yep, we'll try to pick it up. बस कोशिश करना ऐसी भाषा में हो जो हमें समझ आए. और ऐसी बहुत सी किताबें हैं दूसरे लैंग्वेजेस में जो हम पढ़ना चाहते हैं, बट ठीक है वो इंग्लिश या हिंदी में अवेलेबल नहीं है. बट yeah, those things happen somewhere. उनकी बात फिर कभी करेंगे. But I will come up definitely with very interesting books to dissect
and
in the future.
More of your suggestions, please keep them underrated suggestions. Suggestions that are not famous. Like everyone has read Kite Runner, everyone has read, and then there were none. We will pick up those books. We will dissect those books in our own sweet time. But new authors, new books, underrated books जो कभी नहीं हुई, छोटी हो बड़ी हो कुछ भी चलेगा. We don't have a time frame for that. So yes, we like and look forward to reading books that you guys have liked. Yes.
अपने बुक्स के बारे में लिखो, अपने दोस्तों के बुक्स के बारे में लिखो, and we'll sit down and dissect them all for all the happy readers around here. So that was all from the first episode of Two Bookdragons, and we'll see you next week, next Sunday, once again with another book at 3 p.m. sharp on YouTube Live of Meet the Vision.